Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of the BigSlice Gamescast. I am your host, Corey Stroby, and with me I have Jessica.
Hello.
So really quickly, just to go right into the first topic, this came out yesterday, I think. Doom Eternal got delayed to 2020, so if you've been following that game, this one's definitely for you. I have an article from IGN talking about it, but it says this is from Matt Purslow over at IGN, but the article says Doom Eternal has been delayed from its November release. It will now launch March 20th, 2020. Bethesda has announced that it and id Software have decided to delay the game in order to live up to, quote, our standards of speed and polish. The studio acknowledges that this may be disappointing to fans, but believes that Doom Eternal will be worth the extra wait. In addition to an altered release date, Bethesda and id Software have announced 3 other changes. Invasion mode, in which the player takes on the role of a playable demon and invades another player's game, will be released as a free update shortly after the new March 20 release date. Doom Eternal will also launch on Nintendo Switch, but not on the same day as PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Bethesda promises that a date will be announced in the future. Additionally, Doom 64 will be provided as a pre-order bonus for Doom Eternal on all platforms. Doom 64 will also be available to buy separately and will be released on all platforms on March 20th, 2020. The press release provided by Bethesda makes no mention of Google Stadia, and so there is no confirmation currently as to when Doom Eternal will launch on Google's streaming service. So anyone following Doom Eternal and excited for that, I'm sure, is a bit disappointed about that. I know you mentioned your friend. Who was it? Your friend Clock?
Clock, yeah. Clock, we texted him last night. He's very upset. Because he got the huge pack basically that came with the big old fancy helmet that you can actually wear. And it was gonna be here 2 days before his wedding, so it was his wedding gift to himself, and now he doesn't get it.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he's a little sad. He used Craig from Parks and Recreation to convey how sad he was.
Oh, geez.
So if anyone's a Parks and Rec fan, you should know who I'm talking about. He's the guy who yells a lot.
He's really funny.
But yeah, he is. He's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, he's really sad. But I mean, I think it'll be okay. I mean, it looks like they're adding the playable demon thing is really cool that they're adding that. But I mean, people who were waiting forever and ever for Breath of the Wild, it ended up coming out and being one of Zelda's greatest games. So it might just be worth the wait.
It's Breath of the Wild has been in talks about being one of the best games ever made. Within the top 10 best games ever made. And that was delayed too. Of course, that's a Zelda game. This is Doom.
But still, I mean, both Zelda and Doom go back a long way.
Yeah, Doom went back further than Zelda.
I'm pretty sure,
if I remember correctly.
Doom is old. Because Doom is arcade.
Yeah, Doom, I don't remember where the original Doom came out. The original Doom came out... Nope, not the
1993.
Was it 1993?
So it's not as old as Zelda then.
My bad. Yeah, because the original Zelda came out in 87.
Yeah.
OG. Or was it 86? It was either 86 or 87. I know that. It was shortly after.
In the 80s.
Yeah, it was shortly after the original Mario came out. But just a quick statement on Doom Eternal being delayed. There's a number of reasons why a game would get delayed. Either they were pushing themselves a little too hard to try and hit that release date, and it was an unrealistic release date based on something that could have happened during the development cycle, something that could have happened, it sounds like this playable demon mode or whatever it was. Where was that? Invasion mode. Excuse me. Invasion mode is the one where you're playing a demon going into somebody else's game. It sounds like that might have been something that was already in development, but now with this time delay, they're able to like add it to like the initial launch. So there's a number of reasons why a game gets delayed. Who knows what the reason is here? But most of the time, the reason is just it's unrealistic for them to put the game out on that initial date. And if they launched it on that initial date, the game is going to be significantly more broken than it would be if they delayed it. And if Doom Eternal was broken, I'm sure tons and tons of people will be just as mad or upset, if not more mad or upset, than the announcement that it's being delayed. But yeah, that was just kind of a quick little thing because I forgot that was announced. Actually, that was updated today. Oh wait, no, it wasn't.
No, it came out like late last night, I think.
It was last updated at 6:17 p.m. yesterday.
Yeah, late last night. I'm like 40 years old.
But yeah, so just a heads up for anyone looking forward to Doom Eternal. It is still coming. You're just gonna have to wait a little bit longer. It was the same thing with the Animal Crossing announcement that initially it was going to come out at some point this year, but now we have to wait until
March.
Yeah, until March. But after seeing what they had, it's like, I'll gladly wait. Do what you need to do. I can't wait to play it. Or, I mean, well, I can wait to play it, but you know what I mean.
Can't wait in a good way, can wait in a patient way.
Yeah, I can't wait, but I can wait. Like, I'm excited to play it, but I'm patient. But anyway, so that was added to our topics list kind of last minute because I totally forgot about that. But anyway, getting into the topics that I did have written down, we have kind of a big show today. There's some stuff going on in the headlines that I do want to get to as kind of a main topic. But we'll go ahead and go right into this first one. Starting off on a good note. This is a game. This is an article from Games Radar from yesterday, which was the 8th, as of this recording. This is Reggie Fils-Aime awarded a lifetime achievement by International Video Game Hall of Fame. This is by Heather Wald over at Games Radar from yesterday, the 8th. It says, former president of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aime, has been awarded the Walter Day Lifetime Achievement Award by the International Video Game Hall of Fame for his services to the gaming industry. The Hall of Fame, based in I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this name. Based in Ottumwa, Iowa, was established in 2010.
Ottumwa? I think it's Ottumwa.
Is it Ottumwa? Like Ottawa, but with an M.
Kind of, yeah.
The Hall of Fame, based in Ottumwa, Iowa, was established in 2010 to honor, quote, the luminaries of the video game age and to preserve the artifacts and memorabilia generated by this dynamic industry. Reggie recorded his acceptance speech for the award, which can be seen below, during which he thanks the fans and the community, and even mentions, quote, all of those wonderful memes. And his acceptance speech and his video will be in the show notes and in the YouTube description for you to watch. I highly recommend it. It's really heartwarming. But continuing, Reggie says, quote, lastly, I want to thank the players and the fans. Like you, I have a passion for video games, and I was a fan before I was ever an employee of Nintendo. And I think that knowledge of video games, I think the knowledge of all of these great franchises and the ability to poke fun of myself to create all of those wonderful memes, I think that is what endeared me with the community. And I do believe that the love of the community is a large part of why I'm able to receive this award. Reggie has been a much-loved figure for his great sense of humor and his evident love of games during his time at Nintendo. On the Hall of Fame's official website for the Class of 2019 awards, it cites Reggie's career history and achievements, and as well as mentioning how he gained, quote, celebrity status among gamers following his appearance at Nintendo's E3 2004 press conference. Many will remember it was at this E3 that Reggie revealed the Nintendo DS for the first time. It's a well-deserved award, and we hope Reggie has found the time to add it to his Animal Crossing New Leaf house. So we mentioned Reggie Fils-Aime a couple times on the podcast. His announcement for the announcement of him leaving Nintendo, and
joining the board.
Yeah, the Video Game Critics Circle board. Most likely as a mentor in the Bronx, which is a very, very, a very positive thing for him to do. And for him to get the Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Video Game Hall of Fame, I think is very fitting. Another thing to mention, this goes slightly off topic from Reggie, but I looked at the Video Game Hall of Fame Class of 2019 last night, and I think it's worth mentioning that there's a few Golden Age games that got inducted, but there's another Video Game Hall of Fame somewhere. But Galaga, Tetris, Computer Space, Miss Pac-Man were inducted into the Golden Age game. I'm not really sure how this works, but I guess a few of them were. But Doom is in there as well. For the 90s
like a lot
game.
of the old arcade games, sounds like.
Yeah. Fun fact: Computer Space is Computer Space. I think. Oh wait, never mind. It wasn't Computer Space. I was thinking of something else.
Psych.
I think it was one of the first video games ever made, but Computer Space and one other one, I think. Whatever.
I don't think the first video game ever made was Pong.
No, that goes way back. That was the first one to be released on a home console. But there was a few that were actually in a test lab, like a computer lab at a college, that were recognized as the very first. There was actually one in 1952. It was basically just a computerized version of Tic-Tac-Toe. But the computer would make smart decisions, like it would actually play Tic-Tac-Toe with you and try and beat you. Like that was the first time like a video game was actually used.
Oh yeah, Computer Space, like that.
Yeah. But anyway, staying on topic, one thing that I did want to mention was there's an industry leader award, and Bonnie Ross won that this year. I'll just go ahead and read her thing here. So it says Ross was named the 2019 inductee of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame and has been named one of Fortune's most powerful women in gaming. Over the last 12 years, Ross pushed to broaden franchise reach and define Halo as a leader in transmedia across the entire entertainment industry, including the Halo series of video games, the upcoming Halo television series by Showtime, and live-action series such as Halo Forward Unto Dawn and Halo Nightfall. Ross brings over 20 years of experience in the game industry, beginning her gaming career as a producer on PC sports games. She has worked on such titles as NBA Inside Drive, Pandora's Box, Zoo Tycoon, Dungeon Siege, Counter-Strike, Gears of War, Jade Empire, Psychonauts, and Mass Effect. So she's got quite the resume.
Yeah,
and very deserving of the industry leader award. But her name caught my attention because she was also I guess I'm blanking on the word. She was also showcased, I guess, in the Women in Games the Women in Games exhibit at the Strong Museum. I think we talked about that either last week or the week before. But there's a Women in Games exhibit, and she's in that one too. But yeah, going back to Reggie, I think it's been quite a year for Reggie. You know, him leaving Nintendo on a high note, just being ready to leave, to joining the Video Game Critics Circle as a mentor, and then getting this Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Video Game Hall of Fame. And I imagine he'll probably end up with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Game Awards too.
Oh, probably.
Which will be very, very deserving. And if he does win that, I think I'll probably end up getting emotional because I've been following his career for years. To see him, get this kind of recognition for all the work that he's done in the industry, I think is very, very, very deserving for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on that. Do you have anything to add to that?
Go Reggie.
Yeah.
That's it.
Reggie is definitely a lovable character within the video game industry. Pretty much any gamer is familiar with him. Especially any big Nintendo fans is very, very will very much be familiar with him. But
oh yeah.
I'm excited to continue to follow his career. Okay, moving on to something a little bit funnier. A pug has been hired by 343 Industries to make alien sounds for Halo Infinite. When I first saw this headline, I thought it was fake. But I saw that GameBite reported it, and like someone else reported it. There's an interview with Game Informer. It looks like. Oh, maybe that was a different interview. Never mind. Anyway, let me get into this. So, the article, this is from Katie Roberts over at GameBite. So it says, in today's episode of Wholesome Gaming News, it's been announced by the company behind the popular Halo franchise that they've currently brought a pug on board to help out with some of the alien sounds for the game. Gyoza the pug was introduced to fans on Halo's official Instagram account, and she looks like a very good girl. In fact, she's such a good girl that she's helped out the studio by supplying grunts and huffing and puffing noises to make the aliens sound a bit more interesting. Writing on their social media, Halo captioned the post, quote, "Meet our favorite pug, Gyoza." I'm probably butchering her name.
I don't know.
It says, quote, "Meet our favorite pug, Gyoza, the best friend of our studio's technical art director. His grunts, breaths, and excitement are sure to make for some interesting sounds in Halo Infinite." While it was originally posted on their social media in August, it seems like only now people are truly getting excited about the prospect of the news of the latest addition to the cast. According to MS Power, they believe that her little grunts will likely be used for a villain. But I've also seen speculation going around that he could be lending his voice to a potential animal companion in the game. Xbox Studios head Matt Booty recently gave some insight on where Halo Infinite's taking the series in a new interview. Halo Infinite is aiming to be bigger than anything else in this series so far. In his interview with Game Informer, they asked him what he thought of the game at present. He said, quote, "It is a great part of my job to be able to work with 343 Industries and get previews of things. I think the first thing that is very cool in where that game is headed is how they're thinking about expanding the world. I won't go so far as to say sandbox, because you bring up sandbox and people sort of overload that term with a lot of other things. But what the team is doing to build a bigger universe and a bigger set of gameplay scenarios and just more things to explore is awesome. The things they're working on are really cool." So first off, the idea that they're using a dog as a way to get alien sounds, I think is freaking hilarious, but really awesome too. Because if you look up like videos of like behind the scenes in like sound studios and see how people make sound effects for movies or for games is really interesting. Like
There's
if you
a word, it starts with an F. I can't. It's like full something. Like what they're called.
the sound studios.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I'm forgetting.
Foley. It's called.
Oh
Foley,
yeah. Foley's. But yeah, the fact that they're putting a pug in there, I think is. Now I'm interested to see how that turns out in the actual game.
I mean, I'm honestly like, I read it and I too at first thought it was a joke. I was like, is this by The Onion? And then it wasn't. So I like looked into it and I'm like, you know what? This just makes sense. Have you ever met a pug? This just makes sense.
Yeah. Pugs make some weird sounds.
They do. And like I watched the video of this pug and it's just the noises that come out of it.
I'll post a link to the video on their Instagram. The link will be in the show notes and then the YouTube description. But go watch it. It's really funny.
It's cute for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, them using those sounds, I'm sure whoever is going to be editing those sounds will be able to do some interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
So go listen to that or go watch that video. Especially if you're a fan of pugs, you will love that video. But yeah, basically it just sounds like they're using the pug as in the sound studio for some different sounds. But when it hit headlines, it was pretty funny. But and then there's this quote from Matt Booty about like where the game is headed. The fact that he even mentioned the word sandbox is pretty telling that it is going to be a little bit more of an open world space rather than heavily linear story. I haven't played a Halo game since Reach, and I don't think I even finished Reach. But I don't own an Xbox One, so like that. So Halo 4 was actually like the last game I played. I've
never finished a game, but they're always fun.
I finished Halo 3. And I remember that last level where you're driving the Warthog through an exploding planet is like one of the best levels like ever. Like the music is really awesome in that too. The Warthog run or whatever. But either way, the fact that he even used the word sandbox, I thought was kind of interesting. But because you wouldn't use the word sandbox to describe a first-person shooter, especially one as big as Halo. So now I'm interested to see what he means by that.
Right.
And he does say that he doesn't really want to use the word sandbox because when you mention the word sandbox, you think something like Minecraft or like No Man's Sky, something where you have this big open world where you can just do whatever. And Halo is definitely not that type of game. But it sounds like the levels are going to be a little bit more open rather than just this linear sort of I don't know, just this like linear sort of one way to go type story. I'm trying to think of the word. It's a C word for like a hallway.
Are you thinking more like
a corridor? More
like MMO wise? Like where there's quests and stuff?
No, no, I think that goes a little bit too far. I like sandbox is like I don't know. I guess when you hear the word sandbox, you'd associate it with something like a big open world. Yeah, I guess maybe not something as big as an MMO, but like if you've ever played like a recent, I guess open world game, like I guess you could say Zelda, where you just kind of go out and explore and you find some stuff to do, but there is still like a main storyline that you do. You just don't have to follow it right away.
Right. Oh, you want me to save the world? Nah, I'm gonna go fishing first.
But Halo is definitely not that type of game where it's not really an open world. But I guess one example to compare it to would be like Uncharted is a linear game, but Uncharted 4 had this level in it where it's a much more wide open space as part of the level, where you can just kind of drive around this area in a desert, or this oasis, or just this muddy area. I forgot exactly where it was, but there's a level in there where you're driving a Jeep around, and you're not told immediately where to go, and it's not this like little linear corridor type level setup where you're driving in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
It was much more open, and you just kind of drive around for a little bit, and eventually you'll hit where you're supposed to go. But in between, there's points where you can go to just kind of look around. There's collectibles there, and there's some dialogue that you can listen to. Which that game had some amazing dialogue of the characters just kind of talking to each other. So there's more of that to enjoy, but overall, there's still a linear story, but you have this moment where you can just kind of wander around and enjoy just this slow moment of banter between the characters. I want to say that it might be something like that, but I don't really see Halo being a type of game that would do something like that, with it being a first-person shooter. So I'm interested to see what he means by what he means by that they're expanding the world, and even mentioning the word sandbox, even though that wasn't a word he really wanted to use.
Right.
But yeah, so any Halo fans can email us at at BigSliceGames@gmail.com, or comment on the video on YouTube or whatever, and let us know what you think about that, because I haven't played a Halo game in a while. You said that you've never really played through a Halo game?
Not really. I mean, I've never finished one. If anything, it was mostly like the multiplayer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But never like campaign or anything.
Yeah, I mostly played the online stuff too. I think the only campaign I actually finished was Halo 3. And I played part of 4. I played through most of Reach, but most of the time that I spent playing those games was playing online and like playing death matches and stuff.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. All right, moving on. PS4 Cross-Play exits beta, now a full feature for developers. This is by Matt Purslow over at IGN from October 2nd. So it says Sony's cross-play function for PlayStation 4 has now completed its beta phase and is a full feature for developers to make use of. Strangely, Sony has made no official announcement about cross-play being promoted to a full feature. The news instead comes from a Wired article, which states that cross-play is now available to any developer that wishes to implement it in their game. Call of Duty Modern Warfare seems likely to be the first new game to support this at launch, with it being set for release later this month. The beta phase for PlayStation 4 crossplay included games such as Fortnite and Rocket League, which helped prove the system's capabilities. Hopefully from now on, we'll see many more multi-platform games support crossplay. Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan explained to Wired in the same article that Sony has to keep pushing PlayStation and its features in order to survive the next generation. He said, quote, "The track record of the incumbent platform winning the next time around is not a great one. So the major thrust of my executive energy is to avoid complacency. Crossplay certainly helps show that Sony isn't willing to believe its current dominance will ensure guaranteed success in the upcoming generation." So a while back, PlayStation teased crossplay or they finally gave in to doing crossplay after Fortnite kind of pushed them into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when there was a little controversy back, I don't even remember when it was. I want to say it was earlier this year or sometime last year, where someone from Epic basically outright said that Sony made a statement. I don't remember who said it. I want to say that it was Sean Layden was the one that made the statement, but I could be mistaken. But someone representing Sony made a statement somewhere saying that crossplay is available. It's just as simple as developers talking to Sony and talking to Sony about it and making sure that they communicate that they want to do that. It was as simple as talking to Sony about doing crossplay. Well, then shortly after that, Epic straight up said, or someone from Epic straight up said, no, that we told Sony that, we wanted to do that, and we were straight up told no. And that Fortnite basically had in their code basically something as simple as flipping a switch to enable crossplay for Sony or for PlayStation. So there was a little bit of a controversy because there was either some miscommunication or there were sort of mixed answers on whether or not crossplay was available. I don't know why PlayStation and Sony were so on the fence about it. But I like what Jim Ryan said here about the track record of the incumbent platform winning the next time around is not a great one. PlayStation 2 dominated when it first came out, and then PlayStation 3 bombed. And then PlayStation 4 did really well, and Xbox One didn't, at least at the time of the launch. And if that pattern continues, then PlayStation 5 is not going to do well, especially if they keep, going back on their word with stuff like this. Thankfully, crossplay is now out of beta, and that's a full feature now. But I'm worried about Sony, like if they keep doing stuff like that.
Right. But I mean, I feel like they're just so behind on crossplay compared to others.
Everyone else is doing crossplay.
Yeah, I feel like at this point it's like you're just leaving beta. Like, geez, man, come on, catch up.
I mean, them finally leaving beta is definitely a good thing, but it's like, why did it take you guys so long? Like, Nintendo and Xbox have been playing so nicely together, and you're like on your high horse. Yeah, you're on your and PC. And Sony was just always on their high horse. Like, we want to make sure that we take care of our customers. And it's like, your customers want crossplay too. Are you not listening to them? But I am glad that they're finally doing that, and that I'm pretty sure PlayStation 5 is supposed to have backward compatibility and stuff. So that's another added feature. And whatnot. But speaking of Sony having kind of a rough track record with their upcoming or I guess their next generation consoles not always hitting the mark. Basically just more on PlayStation. I figured we could just go right into this one straight out of the PS4 Cross-Play one, but did you have anything else to say on the crossplay thing?
Nope.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, so speaking of PlayStation, there was some details on the PlayStation 5 that got launched, or that got released yesterday. At least yesterday as of this recording. So this is PlayStation 5 gets a holiday 2020 release. Sony unveils more hardware details. This is by Joe Screbbles over at IGN. It says, Sony has announced that PlayStation 5 will be released during holiday 2020. Revealed in a PlayStation blog post, the console is, as you might have expected, officially called PlayStation 5. The blog also reveals that the console's controller will feature two key new innovations: haptic feedback, replacing the traditional rumble, and adaptive triggers. It will also feature USB-C charging, a higher capacity battery, and is a little heavier than its predecessor, but still lighter than an Xbox One controller with batteries inside. Wired got more detail from system architect Mark Cerny. Haptic feedback will come through, quote, highly programmable voice coil voice coil actuators located in the left and right grips of the controller, which will offer more tactile responses than the DualShock 4's rumble motors currently can. Along with an improved speaker, Wired reports that a modified version of Astrobot Rescue Mission offers realistic feelings for the surfaces the player character runs across, with soggy mud and bouncy wooden bridges being communicated through the feeling of the controller. Wired also played a version of GT Sport that used haptic feedback, a major change from the PS4 version of the game, which removed rumble altogether because it was too tiring. Adaptive triggers can be programmed by developers to offer different levels of resistance, with higher tension for the likes of pulling a bowstring than a machine gun trigger. Cerny also clarified to Wired that the previously reported ray tracing tech in PS5 is not on a software level, but it is built into the GPU hardware, which I took away as meaning ray tracing tech can be used, but there's no software that's using it yet.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like anyway. So it's available, just there's no software using it yet. Anyway, continuing. PS5 will use 100 gigabyte optical discs and an optical drive that also plays 4K Blu-rays. Game installation from discs is mandatory because of the difference in speed between the console's solid-state drive and the disk drive. However, installations will now be more customizable, with Cerny saying players could choose just to install a multiplayer mode or allowing you to delete a campaign portion once you've finished it to free up space for other games. The console's home screen will apparently also allow more flexibility for how players enter games. Players will seemingly be able to boot up a game straight into a multiplayer activity or a specific single-player mission, even being told what rewards they'll get in-game for doing so. Marco Thrush of Bluepoint Games explains that the console is getting back to the instant loading of old cartridge games and reconfirms that his studio is working on a big new game after the studio's remake of Shadow of the Colossus. Certain questions are still unanswered, including what the console's UI looks like, if the controller will have a microphone, or how big the SSD will be. So that's a lot. It's kind of a lot to take in, but the thing that really stood out to me was this whole idea that you can load specific portions of a game or delete specific portions of a game. Which I don't even think we see in PCs.
No, that's brand new, definitely.
The fact that you can delete the fact that you can delete the main campaign. So like let's say that the first Call of Duty that comes out on PlayStation 5, it might be Modern Warfare, but no, it can't be, because that's still a year away. Modern Warfare comes out this month, I think.
What about Last of Us?
I don't think so. Maybe. If they port it to PlayStation 5, or if they remaster it a year later, maybe. But with The Last of Us Part 2, I think I don't know, maybe. There's a very good chance that they'll remaster The Last of Us Part 2 for the PlayStation 5 if it doesn't launch on there. But the timing between The Last of Us Part 2 and the PlayStation 5 launching is a pretty big gap. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did make it available for PlayStation 5. So let's say that, yeah, PlayStation 5 does have Last of Us Part 2. And let's say that you have... you're one of the rare people who really don't care about playing the main storyline, but just want to play well, I guess they aren't having a multiplayer yet. Okay, well, let's say this. Let's say they do introduce multiplayer later on down the road, which they will do, but they haven't been focusing on it. So it's not launching with multiplayer as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone listening to this. I think they are going to have multiplayer later on down the road, but not right now because they're mainly focusing on the main story. But let's say you get it later on down the road and multiplayer has been introduced. Now, let's say you have no intention of playing that multiplayer version and you just want to play the main storyline. By the sound of it, you might actually have the option to opt out of downloading the multiplayer portion of the game and just downloading the main story and then playing that as soon as that's done loading, instead of having to wait for everything else to load too. That's freaking wild. Or even like the next Call of Duty game. If you just want to play multiplayer, just download the multiplayer part. I don't know how that'll work, but
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I guess I just don't understand the point. I mean, like, there's like, you know, all memory and everything, or like space capacity. Like, I get that, but like, even if it gave me like, saying Call of Duty, whatever. Let's say Call of Duty gives me the option to download campaign, download multiplayer, download zombies. Like, I'll tell it to download everything, whether I play it or not, because there's a chance I might get to it later.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting option for anyone who like knows exactly what they want out of the game. Like, you and me both are the type of people that like, I'm just going to download the whole thing, and if it's there and I want to use it, then I'll play multiplayer or I'll play the main campaign. But there is the idea that after you finish the main campaign, you can delete that section of the game to save space, and then just play the online portion after that.
See, that makes a little bit more sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Just the deleting.
Yeah, like deleting that portion.
Yeah, because I mean, there's been times where like I have finished a campaign but want to keep playing multiplayer, and having that space gone would be, or having that space available again would be nice.
Yeah. Plus, if you only need a little bit of space, which by the sound of it, I think the PlayStation 5 will end up launching with at least a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Probably,
yeah. I think both Xbox and, or excuse me, both Microsoft and Sony have learned that, okay, we're at the point where 500 gigabytes is not enough.
I mean, a terabyte's not even enough anymore.
Yeah, once we get into the new generation, 1 terabyte might not even be enough anymore.
Yeah.
But 1.5 terabytes maybe, or 2 terabytes. At that point, you might as well just do 2 terabytes. Otherwise, everyone's going to have to keep buying like external hardware or external hard drives. Yeah.
Oh, I know my husband has an external for like, he'll put Destiny 2 on there, and that way whenever he plays, it'll pull from the external instead of the like inbox hard drive, and because it pulls from the external, it loads faster. So I know people do that too.
Really? The external hard drive load? Well,
because there's less to like sift through, I guess.
Right. And it can run faster because it's not loading, or it's not weighted down by a bunch of different things.
Right.
Because I know that if your computer's full, it has a tendency to load slower just because there's so much crap in its...
right, like the RAM and all that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so that's random access memory. So if it's trying to randomly access from a bigger pile, it's going to go slower.
Right.
Or I could have that completely wrong. I have a book on basic computer science in my Amazon wish list, so maybe I'll get more educated on that. I went to school for game design, but I still don't know that much about like the computer itself.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting that the where did it say that the controller might have a microphone. I think that's interesting too.
That was still one of the unanswered questions, but it's not out of the question. It's just something that we don't know yet.
That's why I said might.
Oh yeah. It could have a microphone, which I think would be really interesting if it did. or like a.
It wouldn't be very good for me though. I mean, at least it'd be fine for me, but not for the people who I'm talking to.
Oh
Like
yeah,
there's times where like I'll get like antsy or like aggravated, and I'll like bring the controller closer to my face, and if I like were to like violently yell,
you're gonna break
then
somebody's
I'm gonna
eardrum.
break somebody's eardrums.
I did that during a game of Rocket League. I had a microphone on and I forgot that it was on, so I was like screaming at the TV, like, "What are you guys doing?" And then someone said mute,
Mute.
or shut up or something like that, and I was like, "Oh."
My bad.
I think I texted back saying, you can mute me, right?" So I was being kind of rude. But yeah, I don't use the microphone on there anymore. But either way, I think it sounds really interesting because now the new controller sounds pretty crazy too. Just where were they talking about that? Yeah, Wired got more detail from the system architect, Mark Cerny. Haptic feedback will come through highly programmable voice coil actuators located in the left and right grips of the controller. So it's going to be a lot more responsive and more, I guess, more dynamic responses with the haptic feedback versus just the DualShock stuff.
Which they've been using since what, like PS2?
Yeah.
So
I think they might have had a DualShock controller even for the PlayStation 1 that came later. Maybe.
I mean, I didn't have a PS1, so I know for sure they had them for the second one.
Yeah, my neighbors had a PlayStation original, but I don't remember if it had. It might have been introduced during the PlayStation 2 era. So I know vibrating controllers were introduced. Like, I know the Nintendo 64 had like rumble packs that you could put into the controller, and it would do that. GameCube, it was standard. It was in the standard controller. So like from that point on, it was just you had vibrating controllers from that point on.
Yeah, I had the rumble pack for the N64.
Yeah,
I think it made I feel like it made fishing easier. Like I remember that being like a big deal.
in Animal Crossing?
In Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Oh, I was thinking GameCube. My bad.
No,
the rumble pack.
I had the rumble pack for 64.
Yeah.
I might still have it actually.
I have it somewhere, but my first player controller slot decided to just crap out on me, so now I can't play my 64 unless I look at that and get it fixed. I don't know what happened. Happened while I was playing a game. All of a sudden, it stopped reading the controller, and it said, "Please plug in a controller" when it was plugged in. It was very sad when that happened. But either way, I think I feel like that controller, the PlayStation 5's controller, is going to have something similar, or maybe higher tech than what the Nintendo Switch's Joy-Cons have, like that HD rumble that it has, where it's where the rumbling or the vibration of the controllers are a lot more dynamic. Where like if there's like, I know there's like a game where you can like roll dice or something, and when you do it with the Joy-Con, it feels like you're actually rolling dice. Like you can feel like something bouncing around in the controller, even though it's basically just the controller vibrating, but it must have, I don't know how it actually works. There's got to be like dynamic sensors in there to do that, but either way, like if it's more like, if the PlayStation 5's controller is going to be a little bit more similar to that, or even higher end than that, I think that controller is going to feel really, really awesome. And what developers can do with that in their games, I think is going to be really, really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because I know where it said adaptive triggers can be programmed by developers to offer different levels of resistance with higher tension for the likes of pulling a bowstring than a machine gun trigger.
is
would be,
crazy.
yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
I feel like it could also help possibly for like adaptive controllers for like people with special needs too.
Yeah. Which I'd be interested to see what PlayStation does on that end, like what it could do for adaptability. Because I know, or for, excuse me, not adaptability, accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know Xbox still has their adaptive controller. I don't know if you can use that with a PlayStation or not.
Probably not.
They might be
Probably
able
not. I feel like
to.
it's Xbox's way of being like, we made one. Sucker, make your
Yeah.
own.
Xbox adaptive controller compatibility. The Xbox adaptive controller works with any Xbox One game, including Xbox backward compatible titles. It also works with any Windows PC game that supports the Xbox One wireless controller. So based on that, it doesn't sound like you can use it with PlayStation 4.
No, it sounds like it's just Microsoft only.
It sounds like you can, but you need like a third-party device to connect it. So like, yeah, you can use it, but not right out of the box. You need something to plug it into it.
Just like an additional cord or something.
Yeah, something that can remap the inputs from the adaptive controller to a PlayStation input. But either way, I think that's like the one last thing that PlayStation needs to address before the PlayStation 5 launches is how are they, what do they have an answer to Xbox's adaptive controller, because they've got backward compatibility on the way. They have the better GPU. They have better. You can change your PlayStation name now. There's a bunch of stuff that they're introducing that Xbox had over them, that they're now answering to and adding to, the PlayStation 5's hardware lineup or feature lineup or whatever you want to call it. That now PlayStation 5 is at a much better selling point for the next generation. But now I think it would be interesting to see if they do have an answer to the adaptive controller, because that's like one extra thing that Xbox has over them.
Right.
And I'm probably still going to end up getting a PlayStation 5 just because I'm now so comfortable with the PlayStation hardware and not the hardware, the operating system, that I'm used to that now. But it's like, I don't know. I'll pay attention and see like which one I want over the other. But I don't know. I'm all about the games, and so far PlayStation still has like some of the better first party titles, but Xbox has been really they've been acquiring a lot of first party studios. So we'll have to see. I think it's going to be really interesting once marketing actually starts to happen with these two and they start battling it out for sales. Because I've been following the industry a lot closer since after the launch of the current generation consoles. So I guess I'm a little bit more aware of how that works now versus back in 2013 when these launched. But the PlayStation 5 sounds like it's got quite a bit to offer. I'm interested to see how the controller works. I'm interested to see. I know that there was the leaked presentation comparing the rendering the rendering speeds between the original PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 4 Pro and the PlayStation 5, where they showed a camera zooming through the city of New York in the Spider-Man game, and the current generation console would stop to keep loading stuff in. So it would like freeze while stuff still loads in, and then the camera keeps moving. Yeah, like it would have to buffer. And then you watch it render it in the PlayStation 5, and you just see it zoom through the city really smoothly at the same speed, and then it went like 4 or 5 times faster and still wasn't stopping. Everything was loading in real time that much faster, and it blew my mind. I'll have to find the video and put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
And send it to you
too.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, it sounds like the PlayStation 5 is it's got a lot to offer compared to the PlayStation 4, like a lot of new stuff. I'm really interested to see how the controller works. I'm really interested to see any news on, what the launch hard drive space is going to be. I'm sure it's going to be somewhere around 1 or 2 terabytes, maybe even 5 terabytes, but that might be pushing it. Because that's basically just over a little over 5,000 gigabytes right there. Because I know a terabyte is a terabyte's 1,000 gigabytes. Never mind.
Yeah.
So that would be 5,000. Yeah, because a gigabyte's 1,024 megabytes, but I think a terabyte's just 1,000 gigs. But either way, I'm interested to see what happens with this. I'm sure we'll talk about it more as more news comes out. I don't think there's any more news on that so far.
No, but, I mean, it's not coming out till close to this time next year. So
yeah, a little bit later, even I think.
Holiday.
It'll be closer to the holiday, I think. But yeah, we are kind of within that release window for next year. I think mid to late October will be the starting point of when consoles start rolling out. Who knows? All we know now is it's holiday 2020, and these hardware details are pretty promising. It'll be interesting to see more information as that comes out.
For sure.
All right. Getting to kind of the main topic of this episode. So gaming addiction conversation kind of came back in light of this. If anyone's been following this whole Epic Games lawsuit, it's happening more in it sounds like it's more or less French law because it is in Montreal. But I'll go ahead and get right into this. So this is Epic Games faces class action lawsuit in Canada over Fortnite addiction. This is by Hayden Taylor over at gamesindustry.biz. And this is actually from the 8th, which is yesterday as of this recording. But it says, a Canadian law firm has begun proceedings to open a class action lawsuit against Epic Games. Acting on behalf of the parents of 2 minors, Montreal-based Calix, I want to say it's Calix or Salix. Yeah. Anyway, Montreal-based. Yeah, I don't know. Calais. I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but either way. Montreal-based Calix Legal filed a legal notice late last week claiming that Epic Games knowingly created Fortnite to be as addictive as possible. According to the filing, the 2 unnamed minors, aged 10 and 15, have both developed addictions to Fortnite, spending around $600 and $500 respectively on the game over the past year or so. Citing the World Health Organization gaming disorder classification, Calix Legal highlights comparisons to both heroin and cocaine addiction. The filing reads, quote, human psychology and manipulation of the human brain has been this epicenter of Fortnite development process that has been specially designed to be highly addictive. However, it is worth noting that the WHO, or the World Health Organization, deliberately avoids using the word addiction in its classification, defining gaming disorder as a behavioral problem which lasts for 12 consecutive months or longer. The filing also claims that Epic worked with psychologists in developing Fortnite, citing an article by former UX designer Celia Hodent, who holds a PhD in psychology. During a recent parliamentary inquiry into immersive and addictive technologies in which Epic Games provided evidence to UK lawmakers, legal counsel Cannon Pence said the company does not employ psychologists to help design its games. The filing continues, saying, quote, "It is clear that the defendants knew the risks of addiction posed by Fortnite since they created Fortnite with the undeniable goal to make it addictive. However, the defendants knowingly and voluntarily decided not to disclose to users the risks and dangers associated with Fortnite, choosing instead to deny the addictive aspect of the product. Despite reports of several experts on addiction risks of Fortnite, the defendants still do not address them as this would jeopardize their record profitability." Okay, so I read this getting kind of heated, but because this is actually something that I've been reading about recently, quite a bit.
Addictions in general?
Well, addictions in general and UX design. Something that caught my eye was Celia Hoden, because she was a UX designer or UX consultant rather on Fortnite, and I've talked to her a couple of times and read her book, but she'll be quoted as saying very often that UX designers are not designers of the game. The designers and developers have a specific goal as far as the experience that they want to provide for their audience. A UX designer is only there to help them achieve that as effectively as possible. They don't influence the design of the game itself at all whatsoever. They're only there to help them more effectively and more efficiently provide the experience they initially wanted to provide. So, for example, with Fortnite, they want their players to be engaged and to keep coming back to the game. And so what Celia's job is to help them effectively make that experience. So she didn't influence the design of the game itself.
Right.
But I think it's interesting that they keep using the word addiction, even though we prefer the word engageability, because as developers we never want the gamers to be addicted. We don't want them to be destroying their lives over our game. Like manage your time. Don't screw up your life because of our game.
Right.
Like, have fun with it, but live a life.
Well, and the thing is too is like I know video games addiction was just added.
Well, gaming disorder was added. The WHO they avoid using the word addiction.
But I mean, comparing it to like something that like a drugs that physically affect you, like I think that's a little over the top.
Yeah, I mean, comparing it to cocaine and heroin addiction is very extreme.
I would say, I mean, if you're gonna use any sort of drug as an addiction to compare it to, I would say something maybe more like cigarettes or vaping. Because those are addictions. They're just not as like, I mean, those are so, I mean, they will kill you.
Yeah.
Quickly. They will kill you quickly. I mean, cigarettes and vaping will kill you, just not as quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little over the top. But I mean, also at the same time, like, what am I saying? I think I also think
your train of thought.
Yeah, I told you my brain's a little flustered today. I also believe a lot of it has to do with parents. I mean, if my child is, if I am spending $600 on a game, I mean, they said over the past year, so that's like what, $50 a month?
Yeah, it's an ongoing behavior, right?
So if you're spending $50 a month on your kid's game, I mean, really, Fortnite, what do you have to spend $50 on a month? But like
buying loot crates and stuff.
See,
because that's still in there.
It is.
I think it's being removed later, but still.
Yeah. I just like that's on you, man. Like I wouldn't spend I mean, will I spend the $60 a month, for Xbox Live? Sure, because guess what? The whole family uses it.
Yeah.
But would I spend $60 a month on loot crates? Hell no. Heck no.
For
That
me, it
money
really
can go
depends on
toward,
the game.
Well, but not for you. I'm just saying, like, would you spend $60 a month on your child for their loot crates? No.
Heck no.
I still think they're stupid in general because you can spend the money and you don't get what you want, and then next thing you know, you're out $200. But but for a child, it's just So I think a lot of this is parents' fault. Like, if you're like, I played video games growing up, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, there were sunny days that sometimes my mom was like, "Get your butt out of the house and go play outside." But like,
same here.
But but I'm not like, I didn't grow up to be addicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, the whole thing is just kind of like, if you're talking about children, that's kind of your fault.
Yeah. The way that when I read this, the first thing that caught my eye was 2 unnamed minors, 10 and 15.
Right.
You're giving a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old who, naturally being children and being a teenager, their impulse control, they don't really have a whole lot of impulse control at that age, just because, at age 10, they're still a kid. Their brain's still sort of developing. And at 15, he's going through some life changes. His impulse control is going to be totally out of whack. That's just a natural part of being that age. You don't have a whole lot of impulse control, going through those changes.
High school, so.
Yeah. Well, plus you're going through a lot of, going through, puberty and going through hormonal changes at that age. A lot of your impulse control and emotional control. Yeah. Right?
For a guy? That seems late. That seems late. Puberty's like middle school. That's like 11 through 14.
Oh, no, that is... Oh, my bad.
Like 14 at the latest.
I'm almost 26. It's been over 10 years since I've been that age.
You never forget puberty, man. You never forget it.
It was so long ago. Anyway.
No, but anyway.
Either way,
but
no,
I mean, age 10 is young. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, age 10, I mean, what came out for me age 10? That was 2001. So Animal Crossing came out. Pokemon was huge.
Yeah.
I'm sure a Zelda game was out that was new. Like,
yeah.
There were
around that time, I want to say Wind Waker would have been coming out. No, 2001?
No,
because Animal Crossing came out in 2001. That was on GameCube.
Not that new.
The original Wind Waker came out in 2002. Oh, so that was about a year later.
Wind Waker was 2002?
Yeah. I know, that
Oracle
feels like
Seasons was on Game Boy Color, but I didn't play that one.
Neither did I.
But still, I mean, like, there were some major games out when I turned 10. And still not addicted. I mean, I know it's different now because my games didn't have loot crates, but at the same time, there is no way my mom and dad would have spent $600 over a year on little things like that. They didn't mind giving us games, but if there were like microtransactions like that, there's no way.
Yeah, I think as far as siding with the parents on this, like as far as looking at their side of this, we live in a time where loot boxes are prominent, and that does kind of play into dopamine releases. And when you put that in front of a child, like in front of a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, that can pose to be a dangerous sort of, that could develop some dangerous behavioral issues, because that is basically a child's version of gambling. They could care less about winning money, but winning a cool item, winning a cool item that they get to wear around and show off to their friends online, that's basically a child's equivalent of winning money.
Right.
But that's something that's being taken care of.
The only way I could see it being okay to do is if, like, you come home, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever-year-old me comes home with, a test or something that I got an A on. It's like, here's your reward. Like, instead of, like, paying you for, like, chores, you get, like, paid for, like, good grades. And then instead of getting paid, you just get, like, rewarded with
like
buying
Fortnite
something on
month,
Fortnite.
like,
Yeah.
V-Bucks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The thing is, what this comes down to too is the fact that, okay, your kids have access to your bank account. Your kids have access to money. And if this was ongoing for over a year, this is kind of on you. They spent $600 and $500, so that's a total of $1,100 that you lost to that game. Because that's what each of them spent respectively, which is insane.
Well,
The
if
fact
it's
that
the
you
same
let-
family, but yeah. I don't know if it's the same family.
Oh. Yeah, acting on behalf of the parents of two
minors. So yeah,
so it is the same
$1,100.
family.
Jesus.
But comparing it to heroin and cocaine addiction is, when you're looking at it from the gambling aspect, then yes, you could compare it to that. But in the defense of Epic,
happiness release. I mean, I know people who are addicted to cigarettes. Like, as soon as they get one, like, they're like, oh, finally. Like, it's kind of like the same.
It's that
thing,
sort of relief.
Yeah.
And I've definitely felt that, like, when I was younger and finally got to sit down and play a game on the weekend, because I wasn't allowed to play during the school week. So I'd come home Friday, really anxious to sit down and actually play a game. But I mean, that could have just been me looking forward to the weekend and finally having the time to sit down and relax.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that addiction. That's just looking forward to something.
Yeah.
I look forward to going to the movies. It doesn't mean I'm addicted to it.
Yeah. But I mean, either way, the fact that you allowed this to happen over the course of a year, losing $600, $500, a total of $1,100 to that, is on you. Like, if you're a parent that's listening to this, if you are concerned about how much time your kids are spending on playing a specific game, like if you're worried about them playing Fortnite a lot, why are you letting them? Take it away. Limit their time.
The only thing that I can say is, it's to the parents' credit, is that I have absolutely no idea what it's like to raise a kid in these days. Like, yeah. I know what it was like for me growing up, but with social media and online and video games with multiplayer, and I have no idea what it's like to raise a child in this time.
And neither do I.
It's honestly a very scary thought, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't really understand the $1,100, but
yeah, the fact that it kind of got that far out of hand over the course of the year and you didn't really do anything about it, I want to say that that's on you. But I mean, they have parental controls so that you can lock them out of spending money. Do some research on how to do that.
If anything, I would hope that it would just not save a card too. Or, like, if it doesn't save it, or what am I trying to say? If it automatically saves a card or something, that you would allow it to not do that, so they don't have the instant access to your bank account.
Right. And keep it, keep your cards hidden, because I'm sure kids today are smart enough to figure out where you keep your card. And if they got desperate enough, they could do that. Like, they could take it. But I mean, if you raise them.
Yeah, you got to raise them the right way, because I mean, like,
yeah,
when Sims came out, this is probably the closest I can get to this. Like, think about this. Like, when Sims came out and all the expansions, eventually came out, like, I wanted every single expansion back. And
right.
But you didn't see me going through mom's purse or dad's wallet to find a credit card, like, go get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also couldn't buy it online, so that makes a difference too.
Yeah.
Like, I had to actually go and get a physical copy.
Yeah, I remember going to Best Buy or something, like, every once in a while. My mom would, like, let us pick out a game, and I would get an expansion for The Sims. I think there was once or twice where she was like, "Really, that game again? You don't want to get something else?" I'm like, "No, I want the expansion."
Mom, there's pets.
Mom, you don't get
Mom,
it. You
there's
don't
witches.
understand. I can do magic in this now.
Yeah.
Like, you can play magic in just about any other game, can't you? No, but this is The Sims.
This is different.
It's different. But
it is different. Magic was one of the best ones.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really unfair to compare this to drugs, though.
Yeah,
but
at least something so violent.
Yeah, so violently addictive, and you know, there's an opiate epidemic. To compare video games to something that's an ongoing issue in the world, to compare it to that is kind of unfair. And this is something that could be changed with behavior. It's a behavioral issue. It's not like an actual addiction. That's why the World Health Organization purposely avoids using the word addiction, because it isn't really that comparable. I mean, it does have parallels, but when you look at the brain chemistry, it's not the same thing. Because when you look at like opiates or amphetamines, which is what cocaine would be classified as, there's like literal chemical changes that happen in the brain that make you dependent on that.
Right.
I'd have to look up like a paper on how that actually works, but yeah, it does alter your brain chemistry in a way that video games do not. So to classify that as an addiction just wouldn't be accurate. Instead, gaming disorder being a behavioral issue would be more accurate, because there are definitely people who are compulsive gamers, and even adults who are compulsive gamers, where it's like it actually disrupts their life. They lose their job, their family falls apart because they aren't like, they spend more time playing games rather than hanging
out with their family and stuff.
Yeah, taking the responsibility to spend time with their family, to provide for their family, to go to their job, stuff like that. And that becomes a behavioral issue. In a way that's different from, an actual drug addiction. But the thing that really caught my attention in this was that they actually put Celia Hodent in the middle of this. And being someone who actually had the privilege to talk to her once or twice, it was just over Twitter, and mostly about her book. But and she's spoken at my college too, and I'll post the video of that, where she was actually talking about her role with Fortnite. But she was not an actual designer there. She was a UX consultant, or a UX designer, which is different from what the actual developers do. She's only there to help them develop the game. She's there to provide help for the developers to more effectively make the experience that they initially wanted to make. But she does not influence the actual design. And I know that I said that earlier, but it's definitely something that should be repeated, just to make sure that anyone listening gets the right idea. I think it's unfair to put her in the middle of that too, because they're taking that sort of view of just making a game more effective, making the experience more effectively what the game was supposed to be, and then taking that out of context, and then spinning this whole evil story about it, how like they're purposely trying to make it addictive so that more people will spend money. And it's like, that's not the intention. They just want that, so that little time that they do want players playing the game, they're having that much more fun, because it's tailored to that engaging experience, rather than having elements that just don't make sense in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And UX, I don't want to go too far off the beaten path, but the fact that they're spinning that story out of UX design, I think, is extremely unfair. And that actually did get me kind of upset, because UX is something that I've become more and more interested in. And the fact that they tried to pin that as a way of making games purposely more addictive so that they gain more money is really unfair. But I guess moving on to this next article, kind of within this same topic, just to look at this on another side. So this is NHS targets gaming addiction with new specialist clinic. This is another article by Hayden Taylor, who wrote the previous article we were just reading. This is from the same day, from yesterday, as of this recording. It says, the National Health Service, or the NHS, today announced the opening of a specialist gaming addiction treatment center in London. Part of the National Center of Behavioral Addiction, the center is located at the National Problem Gambling Clinic and will also provide support for internet addiction. Launched in response to, quote, growing concerns about the mental health implications of children and teenagers gaming excessively. Keep in mind it says gaming excessively. So that would be like to the point where they're gaming excessively. So they come home and play for 12 hours a day, which is an unhealthy amount.
Right.
And it being a behavioral disorder rather than being a parallel to drug addiction. But anyway, going back to that, launched in response to growing concerns about mental health implications of children and teenagers gaming excessively, the center is part of a wider expansion of NHS treatments. The service is aimed at supporting people aged between 13 and 25 who are being negatively affected by, quote, server or complex behavioral issues associated with gaming, gambling, and social media. GamesIndustry.biz has contacted the NHS for clarification on how it defines and treats gaming addiction. The announcement makes repeated references to the World Health Organization gaming disorder classification. However, the WHO deliberately avoids using the word addiction. Claire Murdoch, NHS National Mental Health Director, said, quote, compulsive gaming and social media and internet addiction is a problem that is not going to go away when they play such a key part in modern life. The NHS is rising to the challenge, as it always does, with these new innovative services, but we can't be expected to pick up the pieces, which is why tech giants need to recognize the impact that products which encourage repeated and persistent use have on young people and start taking their responsibility seriously too. The announcement comes shortly. The announcement comes shortly after the Department for Digital, Culture, Media, and Sport released its report on immersive and addictive technologies, along with suggesting a ban on the sale of loot boxes to children, which, again, that's kind of the main issue with the previous article, was buying loot boxes. But that's something that is being cleared. That is something that's being worked on being removed or I know altered. Fortnite is removed or altered so that this issue does get cleaned up. But anyway, continuing, along with suggesting a ban on the sale of loot boxes to children, the report said gaming companies need to take more responsibility over any potential harmful effects of gaming, and introduce more robust age verification systems. During an oral evidence session of the inquiry, a spokesperson for Candy Crush developer King said the company receives 2 or 3 self-referrals every month from people concerned about their playtime or spending in the game. In a statement, industry trade association UKI, meaning UK Interactive Entertainment, said it encourages individuals who game excessively to ask for help to reestablish a, quote, healthy relationship with play. So again, right there, it suggests that it's suggesting that it's not really an addiction itself, but if you game excessively and would like to kind of reestablish a healthy relationship with gaming so that you're not gaming 24/7 and it's interrupting your life, getting kind of back into a healthy relationship with that. So like coming home and playing for a few hours, or deciding to take a day to actually spend 12 hours playing a specific game at launch. So like for example, playing Big Expansion with your friends on a day off. But anyway, continuing, a Yuki spokesperson said, quote, "Video games are played healthily by millions of people across the UK every day, and the video games industry takes the health and well-being of all players seriously, especially children. We encourage safe and sensible playing practices such as encouraging regular breaks, offering robust parental controls to limit playtime, and recommending games as part of a balanced lifestyle to ensure a healthy approach to play." So, to kind of meet concerned parents in the middle, there are parental controls that you can do. Maybe cut off the supply of money to your kids. So don't save credit card information on the game. Yeah, you might have to enter the credit card information manually every time you let your children spend money on a game, or you can buy in-game money externally. So you could go to GameStop or Best Buy or whatever and buy a card with V-Bucks on it, or with, Xbox Live account money on it, or PlayStation money on it. That way they can just input that card, and then they have like $20 added to their account, or they have so many V-Bucks added to their account. There are ways where you can control this so that they aren't spending a lot of money. As far as how much time they spend on the game, you can set parental controls, like a time limit, so that after like an hour or two, or setting like, you can set a time limit so that the game will automatically shut off or boot your kids from the game after a time limit is met. There are ways where you can take control of this rather than spending all this time being angry at the developers when developers and companies are offering you a way to control it yourself.
Well, and I know Nintendo Switch even has a parental control app that you can do stuff from too. So like they don't even have to be on the Switch to mess with it.
Yeah, and I know, being someone who is in the industry myself, and someone who is very defendant of the industry, and especially stuff like this, and especially someone who addiction is a little bit closer to home. It's unfair to compare this to drug addiction, because that's a totally different issue. But I do understand the concern of kids playing games too much, and if you kind of lose control over that, there are ways for you to take back control with those parental limits. Take away the game, remove credit cards or debit cards or whatever from the game's file. Yeah, you'll have to manually input it yourself each time you do that, but I would much rather have to do that manually each time I allow someone to use money in my account for that, rather than having it on there so that my kids can automatically spend money whenever they want to. That's not healthy, especially if it's a 10-year-old. A 10-year-old has no impulse control. They don't understand the value of money. I mean, well, most 10-year-olds don't understand the value of money like that. So they're going to see it as, oh, I can buy more stuff here, and not really understand what that means. Even some 15-year-olds don't really understand that. But at that point, I think you can work. No, you have to be 16 to work. Right? Is there a specific age that you have to be to start working?
I believe it's 14 or 15.
Okay.
And that's only like very specific places. Like I think you can be 14 and but I don't know really much past that.
14 and work where?
McDonald's.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you cut out there. So yeah. Yeah, so like anyone who's at an age where they can't work, they can't quite work yet, aren't going to understand the meaning of money in a way that somebody with a job does. They just don't have that understanding without experiencing it themselves.
I mean, even teenagers don't really fully understand the idea of money. I mean, when they have a job.
Right.
I mean, just because they have a job, I mean, most of that money that they get goes to like just stuff that the parents don't necessarily have to buy them, but they don't, they don't have to worry about bills or mortgages or, anything like that. So they don't
Right.
fully understand until they have to actually be an adult.
Yeah. I know there's and I know that there are a handful of kids who do work, whether it's working for a family member's farm or something for money in order to help their parents pay bills. I know that there's a handful of kids that do that. I knew someone, I want to say I knew someone on a drumline that I teach that did do that to help pay for food and stuff. Just to help their parents get by a little bit. But that's like one person out of hundreds, at least that I know of, that actually do understand the value of money because of something like that. But that's typically a rare situation as far as I know.
Right, yeah.
Anyone listening to this that has like an actual statistic on something like that can correct me if I misspoke. But typically someone that age doesn't really understand the value of money that someone our age would understand just from having worked and having bills and stuff to pay. But like I said, just to meet parents in the middle, there are ways that you can get control of this, limit your kids' time, remove the credit cards. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I do want to make sure that we kind of hammer that concept in rather than, going after the developers for just wanting to make an effectively engaging game. To spin that story or to spin that into something like an evil corporation just trying to make this as addicting as possible really is not fair. So I would look into all of this. I'll have resources like in the show notes and whatnot as far as like what you can do to kind of take back control of your kids' gaming habits. Like I'll find some articles on tips and stuff that you can look into and have that in the show notes and in the YouTube description and stuff so that you guys can look into that, so that you can kind of take back control of your kids' quote unquote gaming addiction.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, not really much, unfortunately. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I unfortunately don't understand just because I'm not a parent.
Right.
So.
And neither am I. I try to put myself in those shoes, but it's like parenting is like one of those situations that no matter how much studying you do, you'll never really understand it until you have kids of your own.
Right.
But I do understand that raising kids in this time period is way different than the time period that we grew up in. With the internet age and social media being a thing, online stores being a thing and so easily accessible, we always had to go to a store to physically buy games to do it. And without parents driving us and providing the money, we had no way of actually doing that. In this day and age, it's a totally different thing. And I'm definitely like taking notes for the day that I have kids and just looking at all this stuff and thinking about, okay, well, what can I do to get around this stuff? But one thing I do want to bring up is Celia Hodent. She has an article that was quoted here where she actually talks about the UX design of Fortnite, and she has a book out that I want to recommend because I did read that recently. It's called crap, I forgot it. Okay, so it's called The Gamer's Brain: How Neuroscience and UX Can Impact Video Game Design. And she actually does go on to talk about like, whoops, I bumped the mic again. She does go in to talk about like how like the whole first half of the book is, going into basic concepts of neuroscience and how those apply to game design. And then the whole second half are UX strategies, taking the application of that first half of the whole neuroscience thing. So if you're interested in learning more about like UX design, or if you're really interested in game design and stuff, I highly suggest reading that book. It's a book that I'm going to constantly come back to for when I start, if I ever start making my own games myself, rather than working on bigger teams. It's a very, very useful book. She also has like countless GDC talks. There's an article that was quoted in this, I guess that was in this court filing or whatever it was. That was quoted in the in the court filing. I know a while, just to kind of, I guess, just to kind of wrap this topic up. Again, I'll put the book in the description, a link to the book in the description and stuff. But
yeah,
gaming addiction was something that we wanted to bring up as a main topic a while back, but we didn't really have the time to go over it. And by the time that the following week came up, gaming addiction kind of wasn't really in the headlines anymore. So like the timing of it was kind of off. But with light being shot on this whole Epic thing, I figured, this is great timing for bringing this conversation back.
right.
With it being talked about in the headlines, this is definitely a good timing to bring this back up. And I kind of threw this stuff together in the last night. I did want to put more resources into this, but I think we had quite a bit to talk about as it was. But yeah, any concerned parents, I will have a link in the show notes and in the YouTube description on where you can look up some tips on how to take control of your kids' gaming habits if they're gaming excessively. There will be some stuff that you can think about to kind of curb that before going to a lawyer and spending money on a lawsuit for something that's not really the developer's fault. This is something that you can take care of at home. But yeah, before I start continuing to sound like a broken record, repeating myself over and over again, we can go ahead and move on. If anyone has any questions or comments on that, I know this is kind of a controversial topic. If you want to scream at me, I'm the only one that really looks at the emails. So if there's something that you have to say on that, then let me know. I'd be glad to have a conversation with you about it. But yeah, if you have any questions or concerns or whatever on that topic that you want to tell me, or anything that you want to add to the conversation, please reach out and send a message to me on Twitter or email us at BigSliceGames@gmail.com, or comment on the post or whatever. Reach out and leave any comments you have on that. Okay.
Yes.
Moving on. Whoops. Where'd the link go? There it is. So games coming out this week. Like we said last week, we're kind of in the big game release time period of the year. So coming out as today, as of this recording, we have quite a few.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of games coming out this week. A lot of big ones. And a lot of small ones. Just a lot of games in general. So October 9th, this is out as of this recording. This is actually out today while we're recording this. You have Virtual Villagers Origins 2 on Xbox One. You have Stellatum on Switch and Xbox One. Draw a Stickman Epic 2, Xbox One. Mage Quit on Xbox One and PC. Superbox Land Demake on Xbox One. The Addams Family Mystery Mansion on iPhone and Android. Ghoul Britannia, and I can't see. Ghoul Britannia Land of Hope and Gory. Oh, I get it. Okay. Land of Hope and Gory on PC. You have, and then on the 10th, if this podcast goes up the day that I want it to, then this will be out today as you're listening to this. So October 10th, we have A Knight's Quest on PC, Switch, and PS4, Corpse Party Blood Drive on Switch and PC, Monochrome Order on Switch, Mistover on PS4, PC, and Switch, Valfaris on Switch and PC, Spirit Hunter NG on PC, Vita, PS4, and Switch, Eliza on Switch. And to stop right here, Eliza kind of caught my attention. It looked interesting, so I looked it up and watched a trailer for it. To give a quick rundown, what IGN has under the summary is Eliza is, and this is actually off of the summary for it on IGN's website for this. It says, Eliza is a visual novel about an AI counseling program, the people who develop it and the people who use it. After abandoning her high-powered tech career and a mysterious 3-year absence, Evelyn Ishino Aubrey, I think that's how you pronounce that, resurfaces working as a proxy for a virtual counseling app called Eliza. Her job consists solely of reading a script provided to her in real time by an AI, leaving her no autonomy over what she says. Is Eliza a technological marvel that brings therapy to those who otherwise couldn't access it, or is it an ineffective replacement and another vector for technology companies to gain control over our lives and humanity? As she reconnects with people from her past and gets to know the ordinary people of Seattle who use Eliza for counseling, Evelyn finds herself caught in the middle between differing sides of the argument, and as she begins to question everything about her past life and future purpose in the world, it becomes clear she must confront turmoil and darkness inside. So, to kind of give a quick rundown, it's basically, I thought they had like a shorter summary of it somewhere, but I guess I missed that. But it's basically about an AI counseling program, and the trailer looked kind of interesting. I might end up playing it if it's discounted or a smaller price point. But it apparently it's already out on PC and other consoles, I think. But on October 10th, so the day that this podcast comes out, it's out on Switch. But continuing down the list, because we do have a lot, so I do want to try and get through this as quickly as possible. River City Melee Mock. I want to say that's Mock. M-A-C-H. I'm pretty sure that's Mock. That's out on PC, Switch, and PS4. We Were Here Together on PC. That sounds like another interesting one that I kind of want to look at. It looks like an adventure. Oh, it's a third chapter. Okay. I'll look into that later. We Were Here Together on PC. BDSM, Big Drunk Satanic Massacre on PS4, Switch, and PC. Queen's Quest 4, Sacred Truce on Switch. The Bradwell Conspiracy on Switch. Deliver Us the Moon on PC. Asgard's Wrath on PC. Mabel in the Wood on Switch. So all of those are out on October 10th. Again, all of those previous ones that I just named are out as of this recording. Or out as of this recording gets released. Then on October 11th, we have Superbox Land D-Make on... Wait a second, what? Oh, never mind. This is the Switch release for this. Superbox Land D-Make comes out on Switch. A Knight's Quest comes out on Xbox One. Aluris comes out on PC, Android, Xbox One, and iPhone. Debris Infinity on Xbox One. Frostpunk on Xbox One and PS4. Trax, the train set game, PC and Xbox One. Doraemon, Story of Seasons, PC, Switch. Killer Queen Black on PC and Switch. Fallback on PC. Grid on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Active Soccer 2019 on Xbox One. I'm going to butcher that. Eterno Blade 2 on PS4, Switch, PC, and Xbox One. Lost Artifacts Time Machine on Xbox One. Twin Cop on Xbox One. The Bradwell Conspiracy on Xbox One, and Queen's Quest 4 on Xbox One. So a couple of these were out a couple days earlier, as I mentioned, on different consoles. So they're launching on different days on different platforms. After October 11th, it jumps up to October 15th. And that'll be next Tuesday. So this will be the last date that I read. So on October 15th, this is next Tuesday, we have Children of Morta on PS4 and Xbox One. Zombieland Double Tap Road Trip on Xbox One, PC, Switch, and PS4. Outer Wilds is coming out on PS4. That's a game that we've talked about in the past before. Mm-hmm. Overwatch is coming to Switch on October 15th. All of these are actually on October 15th. A few big ones here. The Sims 4 Realm of Magic on PS4 and Xbox One. Disco Elysium on PC. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is on Switch on the 15th. And then the Ninja Savior's Return... Whoops. Can't see that all. The Ninja Savior's Return of the Warriors on PS4 and Switch. And then Out Buddies on PC. And then a day later, I do want to make mention that Little Town Hero is coming out on Switch on the 16th. I'll mention that again next week. But Little Town Hero is the new RPG from what's the developer? Game Freak.
Yeah, it looks very Dragon Age-y.
Yeah, it's from Game Freak, which is the original developers of Pokemon, of the original Pokemon games. So yeah. That was just this week up until from today all the way until next Tuesday. Little Town Hero is the following day, but very big week. There's a lot of games coming out. The big ones, Outer Wilds, Overwatch, The Witcher 3 are all some really, really big releases. There's also a couple that caught my eye. Frostpunk was originally out on PC a while back, but if you've ever heard of the game This War of Mine, which is a really interesting modern war type game where you're basically surviving a war zone as civilians. But Frostpunk comes from the same developer. But I highly suggest looking up This War of Mine if you've never heard of it. And if you have heard of it and haven't played it, I highly suggest it. It's one of my favorite games of the decade. I think maybe not top 10, but definitely top like 20 or 25 of the decade. It's a really, really interesting game. Anyway, so any games on this list that you're looking forward to, like this coming week?
Not yet, no.
I know The Witcher 3 would have been, but I've already played it, and I don't really have the time to play that again. I know Outer Wilds was one that I wanted to try, but I don't think I have the time to. I just got, I guess we can go into what we're playing. Mm-hmm. But I just got Zelda Link's Awakening, and I want to get into that this week or this weekend.
Yay!
Because I finally finished the DLC for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I loved every minute of it. For anyone who's big on like the whole First Civilization lore for the Assassin's Creed franchise, this is definitely a game for you. Because like the whole Fate of Atlantis DLC is really deep on that whole lore, because you're interacting with people from the First Civilization. So anyone listening that understands that lore, this is definitely for you. But either way, even if you're not big on that, it's more Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it's pretty fun. There's some challenging boss fights in there, and the world is beautiful. But yeah, so I finished that. I played Untitled Goose Game, which is freaking hilarious. Highly suggest anyone get that. It's not an inexpensive game. It's It's $20 at full price. And it's super fun. I beat it in one sitting, and I laughed out loud several times playing it. It's just a really ridiculous game where you're literally just playing a goose, and the whole point is just to be a little dick to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You do have like a list of objectives and goals,
Right.
but like those are super fun to figure out how to do.
Break in the lake.
Yeah, rake in the lake is one of them. You drag like a gardener, you steal his rake and then drag it into the pond right across from his house. It's really funny. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of what I played this weekend. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that I played. I think that was it. Yeah, so I finished Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I played Untitled Goose Game. All really, really enjoyable. And sounds like you played Untitled Goose Game too.
I did. I beat Link's Awakening. I was really sad that I beat it. Good game though. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm gonna continue to play it and just try and maybe 200% it. But it's a good game, and the ending was interesting. So I liked that. Not your typical Zelda ending, I don't think. So I liked that, and then our friend Clock was here for several days because Destiny 2 Shadowkeep came out, so I played that with them. I played the campaign, and that lasted about 6 hours.
Campaign was only 6 hours?
Oh yeah, they're not usually very long.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But there's a lot of stuff that you can do, like grinding wise, and that's when I usually quit because I'm like, I don't want to grind anymore. So I played the campaign with them, and then I beat Link's Awakening, and then after a good amount of alcohol, I bought Untitled Goose Game and played through the first half of it, and thought it was very funny. That's about all I played this weekend.
Untitled Goose Game is, I feel like that's going to be a game that I'll every once in a while, like if I'm having a rough day or something, that game is definitely something that's going to be reliable to just go back and play and get a good laugh out of.
It was funny. I mean, like, and the objectives, like trying to figure out how to make the farmer wear his sun hat and like stuff like that. Like it's a good puzzle game while at the same time allowing you to bring out that really, that jerk side of you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to be a jerk in real life, but with the goose, all bets are off the table. Like, you're going down, man.
Yeah. It's really fun to be. It gives you a chance to be creative and trying to figure out how to do certain things. So, like, for example, like you said, I don't want to spoil how to do it, but figuring out how to get the gardener to wear his sun hat. When I finally figured out what I could do, I was just like, no way. There's no way that it's that simple, but that funny. And sure enough, it was. Mm-hmm. And it was really enjoyable to do.
And then there was one point where, because it's very basic controls. You've got like the ducking, the running, the opening like your arms to flap your wings, and like honking.
The flapping the wings, by the way, has no real function other than to
to look.
Just like
a
boast,
big old jerk.
Yeah, just to boast over making somebody's day really bad.
Yeah,
it has no function other than to just triumph over somebody and taunt them.
Exactly. So there was one point where with the little kid, where Clock and Z were playing Destiny, and they were talking to some people, and they were playing like the more serious stuff, like the raid and stuff, on Destiny 2. Yeah. But I was playing Untitled Goose Game, and I had the volume up. And they're like, Z's like, babe, can you turn that down? I'm tired of the honking. Because I just kept going honk, 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 honk. But the kid got it in the phone booth.
Oh, that one was really funny.
I was a major dick in that game. I had a lot of fun.
But yeah, so you have a list of goals and stuff, and then there's post-credit stuff that you can do too that are a little bit harder. I don't want to spoil any of those, but
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten that far yet.
yeah, and it has a really nice, like, I like the way that the game ended. Like, there's this ending sequence that you do that's kind of fun and just kind of ties the game up in a really fun way.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm not going to spoil it. I'll let you finish it. But anyone who's listening that has already played it knows what I'm talking about. It's just that final sequence in the main part of the game is kind of fun. But yeah, Untitled Goose Game. Highly suggest playing it. It's a short game. You could probably beat it in like 2 or 3 hours. 2, 3, 4 hours if you take your time.
It is short. That's why I'm trying to like really like stretch it out.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I played through the whole thing in one sitting. It was very, very enjoyable.
Well, luckily I was drinking wine, so eventually I got tired and went to sleep.
Yeah, it's a very enjoyable game. It's very funny. Totally worth $20, but if you don't want to pay the full $20, wait for it to go on sale.
Yeah, I think lowest it'll probably drop is like 15, but still.
But highly suggest playing that. It's definitely a game to play with friends too. Like, have one person play it and just have it. It is more fun when you play it yourself, obviously. But if you have anyone that likes watching you play games too, that's definitely one to have an audience with because it's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I showed it to my brother and his girlfriend and just played it in front of them just to show them like the first two areas or whatever.
I had Clock sitting next to me when I was playing it, and then today he sent the meme. You know the photo of Aquaman like coming up behind Superman.
Yeah.
So he sent that, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to look at it real quick just so I don't butcher it. But it was about the Untitled Goose Game.
Send it to me, and I'll put it in the YouTube video.
Yeah. Oh man, we sent a lot of crap today. Where is it? Wait, that was yesterday. I'll find it, but it was funny. It was like, Jesus. Oh, there it is. So like the one where Aquaman's coming up. So Superman, it says people minding their business, and then Aquaman's like that damn goose.
Yes. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. But yeah, Untitled Goose Game, I enjoyed that game a lot. It's so funny. And it really is just a little bit of a puzzle game where you're just figuring out how to make people have a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, highly suggest it.
The shopkeeper lady had it coming. She was mean.
Yeah,
she shooed me away before I even got close to her.
I broke her broom several times.
I took her broom away. She never got to see that broom again.
Yeah, that one of the goals. I put it
in the lake. I put the broom in the lake.
You dragged the broom all the way to the lake?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, screw you, lady.
Speaking of Untitled Goose Game, this morning, actually, I saw an article, or it was either today or last night, but someone who played the game literally took everything in the game and dragged it to the hole at the beginning of the game.
Oh, wow.
He hoarded every draggable object in the game over to the goose's home. That's a lot of stuff. But
like, I haven't even
really funny that you can do that.
That's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. He took a bunch of stuff from every level. But I think the level right after the shop is one of my favorite areas.
Yeah, that's where I'll be going next because I just finished the shopkeeper.
Yeah, it's just like a little town area, like two houses that share a fence with each other, and you're basically messing with both people on the other side of the fence.
Nice.
And they'll like get upset with each other and stuff. It's really funny. But yeah, that's like one of my favorite areas. You'll have fun with that one. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up everything that we wanted to talk about this week.
Yes.
I don't think we probably don't really have a lot of time to look for anything breaking right now.
No, I mean, considering most of it came out yesterday, we would have recorded anyway. So
yeah, there was something going on with Blizzard that I really didn't I really didn't have enough time to research that, but it got a little political, and I really don't want to get into that right now. If it's still going on next week, then I'm sure we'll spend a little bit of time talking about it. But the reason I didn't bring it up today is because I really did not have the time to properly research it, so I didn't want to get into it and misspeak or anything. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like there's anything breaking right now other than that Blizzard story unfolding more. Doesn't look like there's anything crazy going on. So we will wrap it up there. So thanks everyone for listening to the podcast or watching the video or whatever. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to email us at bigslicegames@gmail.com. You can also find BigSlice Games at facebook.com/BigSliceGames, as well as twitter.com @BigSliceGames. You can find me at Stroby Official on Twitter. That's STROBBE official, all one word on Twitter. You can find the podcast on podcast services like SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, and then on YouTube at a later date. And Jessica, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PhoenixLeeJS, or if you're interested in seeing my photography work, you can find me on all handles at JL Boone Photography.
And thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to all those services, give us feedback, give us a review on iTunes. That certainly helps us. And share this with your friends. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Adios.
Bye.